I was born at this hospital. I even volunteered here in high school. I was punched, kicked, spit at, pissed on, had feces thrown at me.
I talked to Gloria. I told her, listen, we got to do something to beef up security. This can't happen again.
It will. It will. Maybe not to me, but to somebody. The world's changed. People are angry. Our tempers are shorter, and we're still just trying to help.
You do help. You do make a difference. One asshole doesn't get to change that.
I think I'm done.
Yeah. I know that one. And I don't blame you. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe what I want and what the patients need isn't what's best for you anymore.
Yeah.
I just honestly don't know what I'm gonna do without you.
You'll figure it out.
Hello, all. Welcome back to What's On Tonight, a podcast with elaborate, quirky, and unpredictable conversations about TV, movies, and more. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
Today we are covering The Pitt, Season 1, Episode 11, titled 5 p.m. Please note this is a spoiler-filled podcast. So if you haven't watched the episode yet and don't want to be spoiled, come back and check us out after you've finished watching. Episode 11 was written by Alyssa Gershman and directed by Quyen Tran. Mandy, would you care to share the synopsis with us?
While Robbie tries to keep a developing staffing situation under wraps, Collins guides a surrogate through a difficult delivery.
So the Wikipedia people are slacking because they did not put that big one up yet. So we had to go with the short one that was on HBO Max. All right, so yay or nay on this one. I say a big fat yay. I give it 5 crowning baby shots out of 5.
Oh, same. Yeah. I mean, I was stressed from the moment the credits ended to the moment they started again. I wanted to clock out and go home. And I talked to my mom and she said she had exactly the same thought, that she was like with Dana out there. She quit smoking 20 years ago and she's out with Dana in the ambulance bay. Like,
she could taste that cigarette.
Yeah, she's like, I'm too old for this shit.
That's funny. All right, well, to get into the episode, this was a Dr. Robbie heavy episode. So what I did is I broke Dr. Robbie up into a few different sections. So we'll start with Dr. Robbie and Dana, and then go on to Dr. Robbie with Santos and Langdon, and then Dr. Robbie and Collins, because I think those were the major points, and then we'll head into our chart notes. So to start with Robbie and Dana, first thing I want to say is their conversations, though they both were like a rubber band stretching out and about to break throughout this whole episode, I do think they had some very fun lines for each other. You know, I love his love and concern for Dana. It's obvious they've got a great relationship. And he says, I say this with all the love and respect in my heart. Get the hell out of here. And then when she's finding out what happened about Langdon, Robbie says, are you sure you still want to stay? Dana, are you? Robbie says, honestly, I'm beginning to have my doubts. And then they have the conversation about God. Dana says, do you ever feel like God's trying to tell you something? And Robbie says, we stopped talking a long time ago. So anything you want to add on that?
That was a very sad line when he said that he quit talking to God a long time ago. And then later on in the episode, when Langdon is calling yet again, which, what are you doing, bud? What are you doing?
I get it, though. Being a person who suffers from high-level anxiety, you know, if you were mad at me over something, I would be Langdon blowing up your phone. We have to fix this because my anxiety would not let me chill the F out. So I could see where Langdon's mind is spinning out of control and why he's blowing everybody up, because he needs some kind of something to happen so he can feel better.
I understand it because, again, that's one of the many things that we have in common is that I too have an extremely high level of anxiety and I can't stand for things to be unresolved. But I'm saying in this situation, if anybody understands why nobody's got time for him right this moment, it should be Langdon.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Like if I had gotten him on the phone, he would have super wished that he hadn't. Yeah, if I was Dana, I would have quit answering that. I don't know why anybody's answering his phone calls.
Yeah, I'm surprised she kept answering.
Right.
But I probably would have blocked him for a while just for the silence. But
exactly.
Something that Robbie said back to the God comment, which made me sad, when Dana's like, Langdon's blowing up her phone, and Dana's like, guess who it is? And Robbie says, God. And then again, no, he never calls. Those two have a very strained relationship, it seems.
I don't blame him after seeing just one damn day of what he's going through here. But I thought that when they were talking in the ambulance bay and Dana told him she thinks that she's done, I don't think Robbie believes her because he says, yeah, I know that one, because I think at the end of the day, if this is a fairly average day in the ER, I imagine all of them feel that way all the time. So I'm not sure that he's convinced that she's really done. But just like in a lot of other places throughout this episode, you see Robbie trying really hard to not get into the weeds with his emotions or trying to resolve. He's just telling everybody what they want to hear, to just get through this day and get out of here. And maybe he's thinking he'll process it all later. But I think that was just another one of those moments where Robbie just was like, what do I have to say in this moment to keep my teammate going and just get us out of here?
I think in a way, because, I've got a note here, real quick, a kudos to Catherine Lanasa for every scene that she was in this episode. I don't know if you noticed, I read it in an article. She even spoke more nasally to show that her nose had been broken.
I noticed that.
Was just a really excellent touch. She did not have to do that, but that was well done. But you can see with every second of the shift, like you were saying, and it's the same with Robbie, but her armor is cracking with every passing minute. And initially she's like, nope, I'm not going home. I'm going to stay. I'm going to do this job. Y'all need me. But then as the hour goes on, she's just like, I can't do this anymore. And I think Robbie is scared that she's serious, because I am guessing Robbie's probably said to Dana multiple times, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And she's been the one giving him the speech he gave her. So for her to be saying it to him, I see it as, oh shit, she really is serious about this. And I love the way he didn't necessarily try to talk her out of it. And he didn't downplay her feelings. He was very understanding and empathetic about it. And then everything blew up with the phone call. So because they hint at characters leaving. I don't know if that means leaving permanently, if they go on for a few more seasons, if they'll rotate each season through the shifts. I don't know, but I think it's a possibility she really could be on her way out.
She could be. But what I got from that scene, you kind of talked about how they prop each other up, and you really saw that in that moment where usually it's Dana kind of being the rock for Robbie. He had to be her rock in that moment. Because repeatedly throughout this episode, you see Robbie having to shove down his own emotions and thoughts and feelings about a situation so that he can keep his team moving. Specifically, and I know we're going to get into this later on, but I'm thinking one of the acting choices I thought was just great in this episode was when he's talking to Collins later on, you can see that the answer that he gave her was not 100% how he really felt about the situation, but he was telling her what she needed to hear in the moment because he's the leader of that team. So I got from this, he doesn't know one way or the other, whether this is just her having a moment at the end of the day because it's been such a shitty day, or if she really means it. And I think you're right. I think he probably feels like if she really means it, that's scary. He even says, I'm just having a hard time with the idea that what you need isn't what's best for the patients or me isn't necessarily what's best for you right now. So I think it's just another one of those moments where he's like, acknowledging her feelings, not dealing with the way that he feels about it. And then let's just get out of here and get back to moving through this shitty, god awful day.
Yeah. Well, we'll see next week how that plays out. So Him getting the call from Jake obviously was a setup. I did want to ask you and the listeners if anyone happened to notice when we saw the list of the name of girls David had, did anybody notice if Leah's name was on there?
I didn't notice, but we've had some shadowing that this active shooter event that seems to be what's coming up in the next episode was coming down the pike. I didn't notice, but I had the thought because before I was thinking, oh my gosh, what would happen if Robbie's son got shot? I think it might be even worse. I think it's going to be that girl. And then you have the double tragedy for Robbie, which, God, that man just does not need one more thing on his plate. But you have the double tragedy of if it is her, that he gave her the ticket and he didn't, if it's that boy, he didn't do anything quicker to stop that kid from doing something like this.
Yeah. Didn't have time last night to see if she was on the list, but if any of our listeners did go back or just have great memories, let us know if she was on the list.
Can I say, though, if that is the case, can you imagine trying to, in a giant festival like what I'm assuming this Pitt Fest is, find individual people that you go to high school with?
Yeah, that's a good question. But I guess when you're feeling the way you're feeling and ready to take out someone's life, you're pretty much going to figure it out no matter what.
Yeah.
All right. So anything else on Robbie and Dana before we move on to the next Robbie section?
No, just God love you, Dana. I hope you get home and get that Calgon bubble back.
Take her away.
Yes.
But not from the show. Just for a few minutes so she can get a vacation.
Just, go home, play with that granddaughter that, some of that foreshadowing I thought about after that conversation with her and Robbie was about last week or week before last, I think, where you see her very quickly looking at that picture of who I assume to be her granddaughter. And she's thinking probably that is where I want to spend my time. She even mentioned she was born at that hospital. So if she's ready for retirement, I guess. But Catherine Lena says she's great. I've loved her performance and I would really hate for her to not be on the show anymore.
Same. All right. So let's move on to Dr. Robbie, Santos, and Langdon. So much of this section felt all over the place to me. And most of it was Robbie dealing with these pills. So first he goes to the bathroom to flush the pills. I'm assuming his first thought was out of guilt or love for Langdon, wanting to try to protect him by getting rid of the evidence, and then decided not to do it. And then he goes later on and goes to try to give them back to Louis. I'm so confused about that whole pill thing.
Me too. I do absolutely think when he was leaning towards flushing them, that was his initial inclination to protect Langdon, and then he chose not to. But then I got confused at the end. If he's offering them back to Louis, would that also then cover for Langdon? Because then it would look like they were prescribed to him and Langdon never stole them.
Right.
I don't know. I was a little confused about that. I'm hoping that we're going to have some medical professionals out there that are listening that can give us some guidance there, because I was a little confused about that too.
Okay, I'm glad it's not just me, because I spent my whole life confused, so thank you.
It wasn't clear to me either, and he was having those COVID flashbacks talking to Santos.
Yeah.
But did you notice he was doing it throughout the entire episode? They're coming faster and harder. Like there were several times throughout where it seems like you can tell he's having them when he kind of clenches up and he closes his eyes.
Like shakes it off almost.
Right.
Yeah.
I noticed several times throughout this episode where he was having those. That poor man.
There's an article I'm going to read from later where Noah Wiley gives a lot of insight into where Dr. Robbie is at this point with everything that's piled on. And it's really cool. So we'll get some more insight into that.
Yeah.
But then we have his first conversation with Santos, and he told her that he sent Langdon home, and her response was a very Santos response. Well, I wanted to make a big impression on my first day. And I love how Robbie, not in an assholey way, but in a stern, this is not funny way, was like, stop, just stop. And she did. And then like he brought her back to the severity of the situation. I liked that.
Yeah.
But then it sucked because he says, you didn't tell anyone else about this. And rather than her coming clean and saying, well, I did bring my concerns to Garcia, she says, no, I didn't. And then immediately places that call to Garcia. And I know how you feel about Garcia. So I'm going to go ahead and let you just go off on that whole conversation that she had with Garcia.
Well, I will say that I have long thought that there was a relationship between those two prior to Santos's first date.
You don't feel that anymore, do you?
I'm leaning against it. I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out that way, but now I'm leaning against it. But I will say this in a very small criticism that I have the show, and maybe I just need to have more patience and just see how it plays out. But if they don't have a prior relationship, then I find that storyline a bit clunky, because the way that she immediately started to hit on Garcia or Santos in the middle of very complex medical procedures. They barely glanced at each other before she was asking what her sign was, stuff like that. If they didn't have a prior relationship, then I find that whole storyline a bit weird.
That's fair.
But because of the reaction that she had when she called her this time, I do think I'm now leaning more towards no, she really was just strangely hitting on somebody and allowing somebody on their first day to do these very difficult, complex medical procedures.
Well, then she asked her for a drink.
Yeah.
To go out for a drink before Santos pissed her off.
Yeah, I know. It was just all very strange. If they didn't have a prior arrangement, that relationship just seems unrealistic to me, that a doctor would behave that way with someone that she didn't even really meet. That being said, Santos, she didn't do the right thing by not telling Robbie and then by calling her. But I also felt her panic. I've seen all these people on TikTok, which is, my favorite social media, because there's so many good creators out there, especially creators that are in the medical field that are making videos every single week talking about what they love about the show, what they don't love about the show. And there is so much what I perceive to be misogyny about this character. Again, she's not a perfect character. She can be an asshole.
She was to King when King was trying to tell her about the baby.
Absolutely. She's not cuddly. She's not touchy-feely, but neither was Langdon. Langdon was brusque. He said the wrong thing all the time. He was a bit selfish. But from the backstory we've gotten on Santos, she comes from a very troubled background. So there are reasons that she might be this way. And there were all these people that were saying she was going to gloat about it, but there was nothing in the way that she has handled this situation that would lead to that. That was, to me, a very strange conclusion to come to. She seems very aware that she is stuck between a rock and a hard place. She accurately saw that this was what was going on. She'd already figured out she's not going to be the popular kid in the room if she goes and tells on one of the attending physicians on the very first day that she's in the ER. So she seemed very aware of that fact. And there was nothing in her character or the storyline that made me think that she was going to gloat about it at all.
No, not at all.
I know I'm very Team Santos, and it is, again, because she kind of reminds me of me as a kid. And I think that this character has a lot of room for growth, but she is very young and this is her first day. And she obviously comes from a pretty troubled background. So I just feel bad for her a little bit in this situation. Did she handle it perfectly? No, but she was freaking out.
Yeah.
She's scared to tell Robbie that she's already told Garcia about this. And then she goes to the one person who has kind of, frankly, it looked like grooming to me, the way that she was treating her, and tries to get somebody to give her some practical advice of how to handle it. And instead she gets rejected and told that she's trouble.
Yep.
I mean, what did she want her to do? Just ignore it?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I think she wanted, because that was kind of what she indicated when she tried to talk to her earlier in the day. So this is just one of many ways at times I'm going to say justice for Santos.
Well, I'm glad Robbie assured Santos at the end of their time together that she did do the right thing. She needed to hear that. Love or hate Santos. I'm not a Santos fan. Issa Briones, you are amazing at what you do. You make me feel things with your character. However, I agree with you. She does not deserve the hate she's getting for making the choice that she made in regards to Langdon. Is she handling it perfectly? No. But she's like you said, she's young. She's been through some things. She's doing the best thing that she knows how. So thank you to Robbie for going up to her and saying, you did the right thing, and I appreciate you for it.
Yeah, I want to make that same point about Patrick Ball. Like, he's doing a phenomenal job with this character. I know I compare those two, but it's just because of the nature of the storyline.
Well, you kind of have to, because they're paired together.
Right.
All right, so let's move on to Dr. Robbie and Collins. I think this was the most heartfelt, heartwarming, and sad part of the episode. You know, it's obvious that Robbie is concerned about Collins, and Collins realizes he's not going to let up. So she does make the decision to go ahead and tell him about the miscarriage. Kudos to Noah Wiley for his acting ability, the way his face went from shock, concern, and sadness within 60-second moment was just absolutely brilliant to me. Then as a strong woman that we talked about when she had the miscarriage, she's trying everything she can to keep it together, even though it's coming through. She's heartbroken about it. She's really starting to process everything. She doesn't want to go home and she doesn't necessarily want to talk about it, but she does go on to explain to him that I have tried with IVF. And later on, when they're in the ambulance, a lot more comes out. And we'll talk about that after we get through her dealing with the pregnancy emergency, because I think everything that happens in there leads up to that very important ambulance conversation.
Yeah, that poor lady. I love women. The strength that she was showing throughout this entire episode with everything that she was dealing with and having to put aside. I mean, we talk a lot about Robbie's PTSD, but you can see throughout this episode so many times that her heart was breaking and she was just trying to be there for her patients.
Yeah, I agree. I have a note, too much information, viewing edition. I don't think anyone other than those who worked on the show were prepared for the visual that came. But I was like, holy crap at first. But I'm also glad they showed it, because I think it's important that people see this is what happens when a woman gives birth. This is the amazing things that our bodies can do.
Than dangerous things that our bodies can do. But that was exactly my thought process too. Initially, because I had 2 kids and I chose not to look either time. I ended up having C-sections, but even if I'd had vaginal birth, I was not planning to look.
You love this episode then.
The initial thought I had was, oh my God, nobody warned me about this. But then, like you said, my second thought was, hell yeah, because I think too often on television, especially, birth is portrayed as this very clean, sterile thing. And then you have a mom's face where it looks like she's just a little uncomfortable. And then they hand her this clean, pretty, sweet little newborn baby. I think that's part of why men in general, and some women, don't really understand. And I don't know that women give ourselves enough credit for what your body goes through to bring a child into this world. It is often very dangerous, incredibly painful under the best of situations. And I love that they chose, and I don't think it was an accident that they chose a Black woman for this for a couple of reasons. I think that it was great to see Dr. Collins treating this patient, because she may have survived because she had another Black woman who was her attending physician. The mortality rates for Black mothers in this country is appalling. The statistic I found was, according to the Center of Disease Control in 2021, the maternal mortality rate for Black women was 69.9 deaths per 100 live births, compared to 26.6 deaths per 100,000 live births for white women.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's always dangerous, but it's especially dangerous for Black women. And I think that if women can go through this, then we as viewers, especially of a television show that is trying very hard to show as much accuracy as possible in the procedures that they perform, that we can endure seeing, or at least, a television version of what a woman can go through trying to bring a baby into this world. And not even her own baby. She was doing it out of love for her friends.
I know. I loved that whole dynamic. I love that they showed gay people are just amazing, wonderful people who also want to have kids. They are regular parents. I'm glad they focused on, gay parenting, as I hate to even say gay parenting, it's parenting, period. I'm glad that was the focus, to show that it is a very happy, loving, safe environment, not what some people in our country want to portray it as. And I love that they showed the beauty of what a surrogate can do. Surrogates, man, I tip my hat to them. Whether it's your egg that you donated with your body to help someone have a child, or if you go through the process where you're implanted with someone else's egg and whatnot, and you're carrying that child for them. You all saw in this episode what your body goes through. That's not the whole picture. There's still 9 months of a lot that lead up to that. And it's tough. I've never experienced it, but through Mandy and a lot of other friends, I have seen what, it's not easy. It's a beautiful thing, but it's not easy. So I'm glad they showed the surrogate side too, and how that was just such a beautiful thing. But the one thing I want to laugh, made me laugh so hard, is when one of the dads was like, her best friend was like, let me get the playlist. And she's like, fuck Beyonce, because she's just in so much pain. She does not care. I love that part.
Yeah, that was very funny. That cracked me up.
All right. So then once all that is said and done, and kudos to Robbie and Collins and all of them for the amazing work they did to not only save that baby, but save the mom. And Erica, one of our listeners, shared a link with me on how they did that baby and the lower half of the fake lower half of that woman delivering. And it is horrifyingly amazing. So I'll post it in show notes. So if y'all haven't seen it, check it out. It's really cool how they made all that work.
As somebody with a real vagina, I could absolutely tell that was not, because let's just say her hair was too perfect. I do want to say before we move past that, though, not only was the birth itself difficult, but then she almost died after the baby was out and safe. That happens all the time.
It happened to a friend of ours.
We have a very good friend who delivered her child in the hospital for 3 days, because back then, they let you stay. Now they kick you out after 24 hours. Went home, got up in the middle of the night, and almost bled to death. Women, man, we need to give ourselves more credit for what we do. And when we are talking in this country today about maternal health, abortion, female health care, and how some of our decisions are being taken out of our hands, we need to remember that birth is not always this beautiful, wonderful experience that goes cleanly and perfectly. It is often very, very dangerous for women.
Yeah, very. So all of this, everything that happens really affects Collins, and she obviously goes to take a break, and Robbie finds her in the ambulance. And that whole conversation was just absolutely beautiful. And kudos to the show for giving viewers a look into the IVF process and the difficulties and struggles. Again, IVF isn't, oh, here's a shot, you have a baby, and all is well. It takes an insane toll on the woman's body. And then for her to admit this is the second time this has happened to her, then to go on and talk about the father didn't even know that this happened, which again, kudos to Noah Wiley for going through a gamut of emotions right there.
Yeah, I got the impression, did you too, that she was saying that she had at least one more miscarriage, and that both of those were through IVF, right?
I don't know about the first one. I know that she was definitely pregnant before, and it was definitely a miscarriage, and she did not tell the father about it. And I personally think that's Robbie's baby that she's talking about.
No, that she had an abortion.
Oh.
Yeah. No, she definitely had.
That's right, because she said she wasn't ready to be a mom.
Yeah, she definitely had at least one miscarriage before this, which I'm assuming.
But the miscarriage was Robbie's baby.
No, the abortion was Robbie's baby, is the strong implication.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, everyone. I got it. You're exactly right.
Yeah, I think that she was struggling. She wanted to be a mom now, and she was seeming to try to do this, which backs up something that Noah Wiley said in one of the interviews that we read a few weeks ago, that she was doing this on her own. So I'm assuming she was using a donor, and that's what her IVF was. She was just using a donor sperm and trying to be a mom as a single mother. But then as she's trying to process her grief about her latest miscarriage, you can kind of see, and Tracy, of course, they both did such a great job acting with their eyes as much as anything in this scene. So much was not being said. And you could see in her gaze that she feels some guilt. She gets into this abortion that she had several years ago when she was not ready to be a mom, and she never told the person that was the father that she got pregnant. Strongly, the implication there is that it was Robbie, and she's asking for his forgiveness. So, she's probably experiencing all of this guilt, and she's questioning, am I having these miscarriages because I had an abortion?
Yeah, which is a shame no woman should have to carry.
No, but it is what it is. And that's a very normal feeling to have. But what I loved about that was also just her desperate expression. She was begging Robbie with her eyes to understand why she did what she did and to forgive her. And then also Robbie's face and Robbie's eyes when he did forgive her. Just, I think this was another example of him telling one of his teammates whatever they needed to hear to get them back to a good place. But you can see when she lays her head on his shoulder, that's not 100% of his feeling about it. Part of him is angry, frustrated, and sad that she told him this. And you know that he's angry because going into the next scene, when he's fussing at the nurses, he says something to the extent of, does everyone just lie around here? You know, just tell people what they want to hear? Or was it Mohan?
It was Mohan.
He's chastising somebody saying, do we just all tell people what they want to, or keep secrets around here? You could see that this is yet another burden being laid at his feet, but he's just trying to keep pushing through, take care of everybody else on his team and just get through this day. So it was heavy. It was hard. Great acting, though.
Very, on both accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think this is the end of this story, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I really loved that ambulance moment in the shot where you're in the ambulance looking at their backs and she just leans over, lays her head on his shoulder, and he just kind of slightly just gives her a little peck on the forehead. And that scene will forever be embedded in my head is one of the most beautiful shots that this show's ever done.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, that's all I have on main points. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good.
All right, so let's move into chart notes. First chart note, Tagari's Pizza does not exist in Pittsburgh. I immediately Googled it to see what kind of pizza they had. There isn't, so there's that.
That's a strange choice. They deliberately brought up the Primanti's a few weeks ago. Huh?
Yeah, no, that's why I went to Google because I was like, ooh, I hit pause. I'm like, let's go check this place out.
It's all lies. I'm starting to think this is just a TV show.
Well played. Earl and God, I love Earl and his no pineapple on the pizza. Robbie, I wrote down his quote, no pineapple, I promise. Not this time, okay? And then I don't know if you noticed when Santos and Garcia are talking, Earl comes rolling by holding his IV stand with his pizza folded up New York style, just munching away while he walks by. Like classic.
That's so funny. And that was, though, another one of those moments where you could see Robbie starting to crack because when he kind of brushed off Myrna and then he was almost gonna snap on Earl when he was talking about his sandwich yet again and no pineapple. That was another one of those moments where you could just see that Robbie's just barely keeping it together.
I also like just a random when he was busting out of the bathroom and picked up the phone to call the pizza place. I'm glad I'm not the only one who has favorite restaurants numbers saved in my phone, so I don't have to Google it. I just hit pick it up and call. So
Uber Eats, baby.
Yeah, that too. But sometimes it's cheaper just to go direct.
For sure. Yeah.
All right. So next up we have Perlin, Princess, and Santos. So they are gossiping. And I loved how they're talking and Santos answers in their language. What is the language called?
Tagalog.
Thank you.
That's the main language of the Philippines.
And Perla says, I told you she was Filipina. And Princess says, but she's so white. Love the two of them trying to get, info out of Dana. And Dana's like, no, she's had it too. She's shutting it down. And then I don't know if you paid attention to Mohan and Whitaker in the background. Their faces like, what the heck is going on here? But absolutely like, we're not listening, but we are 100% listening.
Yeah.
I just thought that was great.
I loved that scene. It was so funny. I love the part where they're saying, this is like the dead squirrel, except that was funny. We'll never get to know what the dead squirrel. How many rodents get into this ER? I
didn't even notice that. I was so busy typing out my notes. I didn't even see the dead squirrel. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Well, and I want to say, I know there's some opinion out there on social media on TikTok, I saw this as well. People saying that they thought it was rude that they were speaking amongst themselves when that's not the dominant language. I understand why people might feel that way. I don't agree. I especially think in this situation where you are in a setting where maybe the minority, but there are quite a few other people there that, especially with Filipinas, because there's so many that are in the medical profession. It's not like, that it's one person who doesn't speak the language and everyone else does, and they're excluding that one person. To me, that's rude. But this, I actually thought, how cool would it be, especially if your native language is not the dominant language in a culture, you can get in a situation or an environment like this where you have so many other people from your culture that you can talk to about things. But then that's how it bites you in the ass, is when you just assume that everybody doesn't speak.
Knows.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I could do that to the ladies that do my pedicures, because I'm pretty sure they're talking about my horse feet.
If you have horse feet, I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah, my heels are more like hooves, because I hate shoes. So we're not going to make this a pedicure podcast, but I am just going to say that I wish I could just bust out with some fluent Vietnamese sometime and be like, that's hurtful.
I know my feet are crusty. Leave me alone.
Actually, I'd really like to be able to apologize to them in advance.
You could just say that. I've said it before. When I go in and it's been a minute since I had a pedicure and I know they're going to have to put in some extra work, I'm like, my bad, sorry. Yeah. Or when I forget to shave my legs.
Yeah, same.
Anyway, I'm sorry, everyone. We need a TMI segment of every episode, because at some point, Mandy and I are going to give you too much information.
Yeah.
All right, so our next note, we have David posting on Instagram about all he wanted was to fit in and be loved. Instead, he's being mocked and he's lonely and in pain. I'm so glad his mom decided to sign off on the psychiatric hold. But the best part, you said something very, very similar to this, where we were discussing how men are taught or raised that you don't show emotion. You don't. Robbie basically said that to his mom, and I just loved those words and Noah Wiley's just eloquent delivery of them. And it was spot on to something that we brought up in a previous episode. That's why a lot of men end up making decisions that they do, because of the way society makes them think they should be.
Toxic masculinity. Yeah, it's a huge problem. In my opinion, it's a huge problem in this world. Men are not allowed to be vulnerable, be sad, to be without the answers. I want to be careful the way I say this, because I don't want to sound like I'm victim blaming, but I do think that standard seems to be one that is mostly foisted on them by fellow men. There are a lot of men who are deeply uncomfortable with the idea. And I loved that he brought up the podcast bros. I have an 18-year-old son, and I worry a lot about, he's a very good kid. He's a sensitive kid, but he's very all boy. His favorite thing in the world is sports and statistics. He plays all these kinds of sports. And I worry that his friends will eventually, and there's no reason for me to worry about this except just I'm a worrier, but I worry that his friends influence him to think that those things about him are somehow wrong or bad. I have conversations with him a lot about when we have these moments where some of these podcast guys will go viral. I will use that as a time to talk to Jackson about why I don't agree with some of the disgusting things that they say about women. It seems very jokey, but it has real world implications. It just leads to a lot of violence against predominantly women when you have these guys with a microphone filling them with these ideas about women and how they're owed certain things from us. Being emotional is weak, being quote unquote woke is weak, when all it really means is having compassion for other people. And then they get it in their head that, violence and anger is the only acceptable solution. And especially, like Robbie points out, when you don't have parents that are engaged and talk to them, tell them that it's okay to have emotions, to have anxiety about the world, that, there are ways that you can deal with it other than taking that out in anger on other people. But it's a big problem in our society. So it's another one of those things I'm really glad that they're tackling. And I loved what he told her about it, because I 100% agree.
Yeah. So next up, my favorite, Dr. King, her absolute adorableness. And I'm pretty sure that's not a word, but I just made it one, with the birth. When Collins, it's like, take a look, what do you see? And what does she say?
I see hair.
And everybody just looks at her like, okay.
Duh. I'm going to point out again, though, never mind. I'm not going to go back to that lady's fake vagina.
Thank you.
Yes, but it was very cute.
And then when, or is it Collins, I think, gives her the okay to scoop up the baby and to give it to Dad.
She's
That's
so
me
happy.
anytime I see a kitten
Yeah.
or a cat. That's what my face looks like.
Yeah.
I loved that. I just love her. And then when she goes looking for Langdon, because all she wanted to do is tell somebody who's shown, she has a good relationship with Langdon and he's not there. And she just seems absolutely so devastated that he's not there. And
didn't say goodbye.
Yeah, that really made me sad for her.
And then Santos was a shithead to her.
Yeah, I already mentioned it once. I wasn't going to bring it up again.
I know we're not married to her. I just think she's a kid, but yeah, she was a shithead there.
So then we have Mohan and Whitaker. This was a really nice pairing. I'm glad they brought them back together. A, I love her growing confidence. And B, it was a very nice callback to the sickle cell patient. And now he gets to actually see what a drug-seeking patient looks like. We see Robbie close to his breaking point when he basically goes off on the guy. And the guy's like, do I look like a drug addict? And Robbie's like, yes, you do. Drug addicts are anyone. Anyone can be a drug addict. And I know he's venting out frustration that I think he didn't see the signs of what Langdon was going through, but it was a message that dad needed to hear. And I also think Mohan's comment to him was like, look, because the guy's being a dick. You want to be a dick, be a dick. But you know what? I don't have a dad anymore. He's gone. I won't have a dad to walk me down the aisle. So this is up to you. You decide what you wanted to decide. Hopefully we'll decide to take the treatment they're offering him and get better.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Well, a couple things. One, if you notice, when they go back in there to confront him once Robbie is involved in the situation, he seems to be on the phone with his son, who is apparently, if I'm correctly interpreting that little snippet of dialogue, holding his drugs for him and not comfortable with it.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Yeah, he says something to the effect of, if you don't like it, give it to Cindy and have her hold it. Something to that effect. I got from that a couple of things, and maybe I'm extrapolating out too much, but that one, he was getting the drugs from his son and then putting him in a weird situation about it. And then two, I'm not sure if I'm really grasping the point where Mohan made an ethically bad choice here.
I don't think she did.
Well, Robbie did. And Whitaker did.
I think with the medicine, I don't know that it was necessarily an ethically bad choice. It's that the second time in this shift, she made a decision about a patient that should have gone through through her boss.
Agreed.
That's what I got out of that. That's what he was upset about.
That was part of it. I'm not sure what he thought she should have done. I'm assuming he thought that she should have had the same conversation that he ended up having. He was not happy that she gave him whatever that drug was. He was not happy that she didn't make the patient aware of what she was giving him and why. I'm not certain why that is an ethically gray area, but clearly Whitaker also didn't think she was making the right choice when she did it, which brings to mind all kinds of intriguing questions about Whitaker's background and maybe what he's been through. But it seemed to me that Robbie felt like she was a bit arrogant, that he felt like she should have confronted him about the fact her diagnosis was that he was drug seeking. But I think he very much did not think she should have treated him without admitting that she knew that he was in withdrawal.
All right, listeners, let us know your thoughts on this. Do you know ethically, was Mohan wrong to do it the way she did? What was the right procedure there? Be very curious to hear anyone's experience on that, and if she was doing an ethically incorrect thing by not telling the patient. That was the least of my focus. I was just more seeing him being mad because she didn't come to him and say, this is the path I want to take with this patient, which I think he would have said, okay. I don't know. But yeah, let us know what you think on that one, people.
To me, if you have somebody that comes in that is in that situation, the first thing would be to give them something that is not as addictive. But I'm not a medical professional, so I am very curious to hear what people have to say about that.
Yeah. Next up, oh my gosh, McKay. her schooling Chad on being a parent, it absolutely echoed what you said last week. You can't be his best friend, you got to be his parent. But I'm going to tell you right now, and forgive my language, Chloe can fuck off.
Ugh.
God, her talking about McKay's kid when she's in the room with Chad, like McKay's not even there. I don't know. I hope McKay punched that woman, and that's why she got a
I
restraining
feel like
order.
she did. I feel like that's exactly what happened. She's 24, not even quite 25. That kid's 11. She was 13 when that child was born.
Right.
Give it up.
And I love McKay pointing out to her, your prefrontal cortex hasn't even fully developed. And she says, I'm going to be 25 soon. And McKay's like, congratulations, you can rent a car.
Yeah.
Was it Fiona? That the actress's name?
Yes.
Fiona Dorff?
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah. Me too. I wanted to kill. Chad immediately caved when Chloe came in and started petting him and poo-pooing him, that he was going to let this very young woman take over parenting McKay's child instead of his mother who loved him. But something I noticed when they were talking about drug addiction when the girl came in that was talking,
her mom.
Yes. Did you see the moment when McKay kind of looked away? Like that kind of indicates that there's some drug addiction in McKay's background as well.
Yeah, that's one of the next points where Javati stayed on her feet again during a bloody procedure. But I just made a note that I loved both McKay and Javati hearing that daughter's story about her feelings towards her mom, because I do think it impacted them both. I think it helped Javati see moms aren't perfect. Moms do the best that they can, but there are moms and we love them. But you're right. Javati clocked it too when she said something about the drug use. Yeah. When we go back and watch Javati's face at that moment that McKay looks away, because Javati clocks it too. So yeah, she admitted early on to that unhoused mom, she struggled with addiction. So definitely has been at some point a part of her story.
I feel like we're never going to get that full story. And that may be one of the biggest bummers when we don't have this show for a little while until season 2, is that I want a side series where they go through McKay's whole journey. I want to know what she's been through, how she ended up with that dumbass.
I want to call it McKay's Pit.
By the way, I'm glad you said that. I saw something this week, a TikTok, where somebody said that they really missed an opportunity to not have the soundtrack to the show. And it was Andy from Parks and Rec singing, "We've all been in the pit." Yes, they really did. They missed an opportunity.
Maybe if they ever give us an episode that's just funny, all day funny episode, that will happen.
Yeah. Oh man, that cracked my face. But having her and Javati back together again, and I'm glad you pointed that out, that she had already admitted earlier on to that unhoused woman that she had addiction issues, because I think this shows some growth in their relationship.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Played out very differently with Javati, or maybe it just shows some growth on Javati's part, that it played out very differently. Instead of saying something incredibly awkward or insensitive, she just kind of let it roll. I really liked that. I would have liked it better if she punched Chloe in the face, but
for real.
But it probably ripped that stupid pink t-shirt off of her.
The day ain't over.
It ain't over, and really we need her not catching another restraining order. So
yeah, that's true. But I think at this point, Chad, I don't know. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I don't think I can.
No. There's nothing else you could say to me that would make me like that guy. Maybe that's my bias, but the fact that he was allowing almost child herself to take over mothering when clearly McKay and that child need to be together.
It's just her face when McKay's talking to her, an adult, having an adult conversation. You look like a 12-year-old kid who's getting told, sorry, you can't play your Xbox right now because we need to go do something. I don't know. Oh, her face. I
felt the restraint that it took her to get through that conversation without breaking.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so that's everything I have on the episode. Do you have anything else, or can we move into final thoughts?
No, we're good.
All right, so my final thoughts, I just wrote down, I feel like I'd run a marathon at the end of this episode, and I do want to say I've never run in a marathon, but I imagine it's exhausting, and that's how I felt. They will wring every ounce of emotion out of you with the show. I am not ready for next week, and the real MVPs on this one are the set design and special effects.
Amen. That really did. I mean, other than thinking that she had an exceptionally attractive vagina, fake vagina, that really did amaze me with how realistic that looked.
Yeah.
And the woman that had Hep B that had the bleed, those were just outstanding. Like they were so realistic.
That was good stuff.
Yep.
All right, so let's move into. I'm sorry, did you get your final thoughts in?
Girl, I think I've been throwing my final thoughts all over this whole episode. When have I ever not gotten a thought in somewhere?
That's a good one. I like that. All right, so we're going to move on to trivia. Mandy has got a couple of things here, and I am very curious. Let's have it.
So my girl, Isa Baronis, I found out that I thought she looked familiar, and I have never seen it live, but I've seen the clips of it, and I've listened to the soundtrack, and it's phenomenal. She first came onto the scene as Eurydice in a really, really good Broadway show called Hadestown. If you've never heard it, you should listen, like go on Spotify and listen to the soundtrack. As a big Greek mythology geek, I absolutely was tickled to realize that was her.
Cool.
Yeah. And then the other trivia that we have this week is that Dr. Mohan, played by Supriya Ganesh, is a Swiftie.
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually... we don't know what Mohan's musical tastes are, but the actress, Supriya Ganesh, is a Swiftie, and so are Becky and I. So I thought that was very, very cool. I was wondering when I saw that what her favorite Tay-Tay song was, and it is Mirrorball. She said that she likes the line where Taylor Swift goes, "I've never been a natural, I just try." She says, I think that's so Dr. Mohan, where she doesn't feel like she's a natural at the ER, but she just keeps trying to get better. And I think sometimes when I need to get into character, that's one of the songs I absolutely listen to. I'm like outing myself as such a diehard Swiftie. I probably know all her songs.
Oh, that's amazing. I have a playlist that I call Badass Bitches, and there's a lot of Taylor Swift on there, and it just makes me happy. And I honestly don't know that I could pick one Taylor Swift song, but I will say my favorite album is Reputation. So I want to know, what is your favorite Swift album?
My favorite album is the Tortured Poets Society, because
you are a tortured poet.
Yes, I don't know about a poet, but I am melodramatic and verbose, and I've also had my life wrecked by a medium ugly man at some point in the past. But my favorite song is from one of her first albums. I can't remember which one it's on, but it's this song called 15. Do you know it?
Yeah.
It just makes me think about all the girls I knew who had dreams and goals and aspirations, and then they met the wrong guy or made the wrong choice, and they got stuck while all their friends were going forward. So I can embarrass my daughter a lot by belting out, "When you're 15, somebody tells you they love you, you're gonna believe him." I used to play it all the time, especially when Ava was 15, and I would give her that mom look like, "Yeah, you see, Ava, this is what could happen. Let Tay-Tay tell you."
What I would like to focus on is the fact that Mandy just sang and her dog went nuts. So
that's par for the course.
Right.
Real quick, I was talking to my mom yesterday about, I went to a school called Amqui when I was a little kid, and Amqui had this awesome talent show every year. They would have a big fair, would have events and things like that, and they'd have prizes that you could win, but it was for the whole community, and they would have a talent show every year too. So in first grade, I did Billy, Don't Be a Hero. I kept forgetting the lyrics, and I could see my mom and my Uncle Timmy out in the audience. And every time I would go, wait, let me start over, I would see their heads start slinking further and further down in their seats, because not only was I messing up over and over again, but I have always had the Bro family singing voice, which is to say a singing voice that makes your dogs bark.
Wow.
Yeah. But I was telling my mom, Amqui really set me up for disappointment in the real world, because I vastly overestimated how much people were going to want to hear my singing voice throughout the rest of my life.
Yeah, you sure did. Oh my gosh. So misdiagnosis. I just want everyone to know Mandy has no misdiagnosis this week. Well, technically this first one is both us Yeah, because you said it too.
Whatever. I feel like I don't have to take responsibility.
Still make me go back and pull the clips. But anyway, a listener pointed out to us, and you'll hear it in feedback, that we mispronounced Captain Crunch. It is not Captain Crunch. It is, in fact, Captain Crunch. And if you look at the box, it is Captain Crunch. So our bad. Our bad.
Well, fine. I'm going to give it to you because honestly, I'm a little disappointed that I didn't take the opportunity to say Captain.
Well, you didn't even note the America.
Yeah, you're right. I missed Murica.
Yeah, so you're just failing everywhere.
Yeah, well, that is my misdiagnosis this week, is that I didn't pronounce Murica correctly last week.
There you go.
But that's literally the only mistake I've made all week long.
Well, I made another one, and I hate this, but sadly, Mandy, you are correct. It is, in fact, a 12-hour shift over 15 episodes, not a 15-hour shift over 15 episodes. And I'm just saying, I blame, as my mom would say, the internets, not just one, for this misdiagnosis. Every article I looked at said 15-hour shift over 15 episodes. So whatever.
I think technically you're not wrong. It is going to end up being a 15-hour shift, but they were only scheduled for 12 hours. I think what this mass shooting event that's coming up is going to keep them there. And I also think that it's going to end up bringing Langdon back.
They're going to have to.
It's morally ambiguous, and I think it's going to lead to some conflict because now Santos and Garcia both know, and well, frankly, Dana, but I think she'll probably have less of a problem with it. There's going to be some moral conflict of how is Robbie going to justify letting Langdon come back to help work on all of these people that are coming in when Santos knows that he's got a drug problem.
Well, I just want to circle back to say that Mandy said I wasn't wrong, so I strike that misdiagnosis from the record.
You know what? I'm going to give you that because honestly, I think it's ambiguous. I do think that they end up working a 15-hour shift, but I had read Noah Wiley said that it was supposed to be a 12-hour shift, but the network wanted 15 episodes, so they had to figure out a way to give those 3 extra episodes in a way that would seem organic.
What does Noah Wiley know? It's not like he produces the show.
Right. You just can get back to stalking me through your many fake Facebook pages.
Fake people.
Yes.
All right. Well, speaking of Noah Wiley, moving into some show notes and news, it's a really great article that highlights a lot that happened between Collins and Robbie from Noah Wiley's viewpoint. So I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs, but we will link the rest of the article in show notes. So TV Insider shared an article written by Meredith Jenkins, and in this article, Noah Wiley discusses that deep moment between Robbie and Collins. That was a loaded scene, Wiley tells Insider. We've been sort of teasing that these characters have some history, but we haven't really gotten too specific about what that history is. And then they find themselves sitting in the back of an ambulance, and she's disclosed to him that she's been trying to get pregnant, that she just had a miscarriage, and this isn't her first pregnancy. As we filmed it, it was extremely emotional. Oh, I can only imagine. He also reveals that it was Aoife Corr's last day of filming. That part of Robbie and Collins' past was the story that executive producer R. Scott Gimel wanted to tell from day one. He says that scene of them on the back of the ambulance was the audition scene for the role of Collins. Wow. That seems like a really great story. I think it was good for his character. I like the idea that this guy has had some relationships, but he's a bit of a prickly character. And the job is really tough. And he had a relationship with this young woman, but it didn't last, like none of his relationships seem to. And then to find out that he might have had the potential to be a father when he doesn't have a family now, I think that has a huge impact. And that impact helps push him towards where he ends up at the end of the series, he says.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So it's just finding those things that trigger that he doesn't expect to happen, that throw him a little bit off his game, and then keep building until we torture him to break. But right after that, Robbie has to go right back to work, doesn't have time to process that he could have been a father then. That's nothing new for him, though. I don't think he's had time to process any of the things that have happened to him for the last several days, admits Wiley. They just all kind of go in different compartments, which are all kind of overflowing on this particular day, And that professional demeanor and his ability to kind of keep that mask of professionalism is getting harder and harder to maintain with each one of these little blows, whether it's losing his mentee in Langdon, or this being the anniversary of his mentor's passing, or having attended this tragic pediatric drowning, or any of the other things that have been part of this day. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. So there's a lot more he adds in the article, but I just thought those 2 paragraphs were very important to what we talked about with his breaking down, and how these things just keep being thrown at him, and eventually it's all going to come to a head. So I'm very curious to see what that looks like.
That makes me scared. That makes my stomach hurt thinking about what this is going to end up.
It's just gas.
No.
All right. Do you have anything you want to share on show news?
Nope.
Okay. Mandy did send me a link to an article with Mohan, and I will post that in show notes. Let's get into some feedback. Once again, you guys came through for us, so let's get started. Mandy, why don't you go first?
I'm so happy that we're getting so much feedback too.
Me too. It warms my heart.
Yeah, I really love it because it's like bringing you all into the conversation. Via YouTube, this is about episode 10, at Kano0794 on episode 10 writes, I work in an ER in Canada, and it's absolutely realistic to have family in the room with invasive procedures. Oh,
yeah, thank you. They answered our question.
yeah, typically would give them the option and make sure they're sitting. Insisting that they leave makes it feel like you're hiding something, especially if it goes poorly, and having them feel involved tends to decrease their trauma around the incident. Thanks for another great episode. Well, thank you. And I'm just so happy to know we got somebody listening from outside the US. That's very cool.
I know.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, she also wrote us a note on episode 9. I'm a healthcare worker in Canada, and your discussion is so spot on and appreciated. Looking forward to listening to your discussion on the rest of the series. So thanks again. There's nothing Mandy and I love more to hear that we're great.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. No, thank you so much for your kind comments. It means a lot to us. Thank you.
So much. At Marygood733 writes, as much as Santos drives me bonkers, I do think she needed to speak up about Langdon before something worse hit the fan. Agree.
Amen. At Splattercast Dad says, The Pit is a great show. It's almost impossible to guess what will happen next. By the way, the cereal is Captain Crunch. So Splattercast Dad, Mandy and I both say thank you for correcting us on the proper way to say that cereal's name. And now I want Captain Crunch.
Now I want Captain Crunch. Yeah. Hey, Captain. At Linda1541 writes, another good one, ladies. By the way, I never watched the episode again like I wanted to. And then she's got a little smiley face emoji. Off subject, but I subscribe to Max just to watch The Pit. Same. I tried watching other shows and just can't get into them. But I watched the animated movie Flow on Max. I think you ladies would love it. I'll check that out. It has a wonderful message about working together to survive. Let me know if you've seen it. It's just a visual movie, no dialogue, very heartwarming. Well, I'll definitely check it out.
I did watch it, and I enjoyed it. It apparently got a lot of Oscar buzz for the best animated movie or whatever. And it's just little animals trying to survive, and it is heartwarming. It's a little sad, but it was a nice break from reality. So I do thank you, Linda, for suggesting that. I needed it. It's short, but it's worth watching. So yeah, check it out.
Will do.
So at 1L Schwartz, so many doctors revel the pit. And you are correct. I am the growing feedback from actual healthcare professionals in how much they are enjoying and appreciating this show. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's the primary thing. I know I brought this up earlier, but if you go on TikTok and I'm sure it's probably like this on Instagram too, you can just find dozens and dozens and dozens of medical workers, especially nurses, who really, really enjoy this show. It's very cool. Via Reddit, the Pit page, check that out, by the way, if you're on Reddit, guys. On episode 11, I7390 writes, let Robbie breathe, bro. Amen. Bro's lost 2 employees, might lose his son. Ex-girl is going through the worst shit. Let him breathe, director. Worst of all, I feel like it's implied that he could have had another kid and he got to know about it in this shift. Why? I agree, man.
I loved this feedback. I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. Let Robbie breathe, bro. That line sums up this entire series. Thank you.
Agreed, man. Agreed. That is great. Great feedback.
So G-Man's 33 says, I think the ER had time to breathe for a few episodes, although there was the Langdon situation. After the drowning, everybody took a beat in a way. I didn't like that in the weekly format, but given the binge I just did, I loved that reprieve. And I'm very anxious to see how bad things can get and why there, in a way, is no reprieve in these spaces. And then, okay, bye. 5643 writes, I'm wondering if it's that incel kid shooting up the festival. I don't know if we know for sure this is an incel situation. So hopefully we'll get some light on that. But I do think that David is the one who ends up causing the mass shooting at the festival.
Yeah, and before we move on to the next feedback, I want to point out here that Becky and I had a little bit of conversation before we started as to whether or not we should even use the term incel, because we weren't sure that it wasn't insulting or slanderous to this kid. I don't know if slanderous is the right word. If it wasn't a slur, I guess I should say. We went on the side of this is exactly what the user said. I'm interested to hear what other people have to say about that. If anybody out there would like to give us some feedback on your thoughts on that term incel, do you find it unnecessarily offensive or just descriptive?
As a matter of fact.
Right, because I pointed out to Becky that I'm pretty sure, I'm not an expert on it, but I'm pretty sure that term actually came from a community of young men who feel like modern women are not appreciative enough of quote unquote good guys, and that they are involuntarily celibate. I think that this loneliness epidemic of young men is a crisis that is hurting both men and women, is incredibly dangerous. It's getting into our politics. And I think it truly is part of why we have seen this step backwards in women's healthcare rights in this country. And then I also think that we need to understand that these young men, part of what they have been sold is this idea that all of their problems stem from the fact that women aren't appreciating them. And we can't address that if we don't look it in the face and really understand that that's part of the mindset. So I wanted to digress there for a minute, because I invite anybody who has a thought about that to please give us some feedback, because I'd like to know, do you think that it is insulting, like Robbie did, to call that kid an incel without knowing how he feels about that situation? Or do you think it's just descriptive? Next up, via What's on the Night's Facebook page on episode 11, Kathy Castillo-Johnson says, why was Dr. Robbie going to flush the pills? But then he tried to give them back to the patient. But we're with you, girl. We're a little confused about that too. So hopefully somebody out there will give us some clarity.
Linda Morrison writes, Dr. Santos was told by Dr. Robbie not to tell anyone about Dr. Langdon. Why did she immediately call the other doctor and tell her? Did she previously confide with that doctor before about her suspicion? And why did that doctor refuse to talk to her about it? I can't remember her name. Well, her name is Garcia, and I hope our discussion earlier answered all those questions for you. And if not, let us know and we can talk a little more about it.
Erica Land added to this post, meat over cocktails. Girl, I see you, LOL. Yeah, I see
that
you
was
too.
So gross.
Garcia, the groomer. Yeah, I see it too.
That was so gross.
Somebody's kidneys laying out and you're trying to pick somebody up. Ugh.
Kelly Burgess wrote, this was the first time that I felt disappointed by the accuracy of the show. I'm an L&D nurse and they did so many things wrong. I was yelling at the TV. I can also tell you in my experience, if EMS was coming in with a pregnant patient in labor, they would completely bypass the ER and go straight to L&D. I will admit that the steps they took to resolve the hemorrhage were pretty on point, but the maneuvers to resolve the shoulder dystocia needed a lot of work. Thank you, Kelly. I love when we hear from healthcare people who have been involved in these situations and tell us what was accurate. And Kelly's not the only one who saw that. A lot of feedback I read on some of our fan page posts, a lot of them had the same thing to say, that they did not do a great job with some of that.
I'm going to try to see if I can find where the show addresses that in any of the interviews that the cast has done over the last week, because I wonder what they have to say about that. Because I know they pride themselves so much on the accuracy of the situations that they present, but I am absolutely trusting these healthcare professionals to know better, that we're getting feedback from, to know far better than I would. I have no idea if there were some things that were not medically accurate. I wonder what their thoughts are on that.
I say they did it because they needed a reason to bring Collins to a breaking point, to have that conversation with Robbie in the back of the ambulance.
Yeah, I agree. Showing all of the graphicness of a dangerous birth was really groundbreaking. And I really feel like they did something there that was a little bit revolutionary. So I hate to hear that it maybe wasn't quite as medically accurate as it could have been. Susan Cook Ragsdale says, so I'm wondering why no sneak peek of next week's episode. And the fact that Dr. Robbie was sending everyone home early, I just screamed major trauma was coming ahead. Susan, I think that we covered this on Facebook when we were talking about it, but I did see the sneak peek for next week. I think Becky doesn't usually watch the sneak peek, but did you notice if they had one, or did you turn it off before then, Becky?
I don't like spoilery
you
stuff.
like to,
I like to go in blind, so I didn't look for it either. But I can tell you, Susan, if you go to Max's Facebook page and the Pitt fan page, the Pitt with Noah Wiley fan page, and the Pitt Reddit page, all of them have posted the trailer for next week.
Erica Land added to this comment after we replied on not being emotionally ready for what comes next week. She said, same. I thought this whole series had been intense so far, but this next few hours, and then in parentheses, she has episodes, will take the cake. And on the birth, Erica said, I was not ready to glance away, then glance back at the screen and see a whole baby head being birthed. LOL. Was not ready for that. Same girl. Same.
Yep.
My thoughts, Erica, you're our girl. You need to be on here with us, I swear.
I know.
Erica says, was not ready for that. My thoughts, okay, HBO is going there. No shying away. And then she said, I was worried for both surrogate and the baby. I took such a sigh of relief and cried a little when finally that baby cried. Me too. That's why I said, I hate to hear that it wasn't incredibly medically accurate, because I really do think as a plot point, it was wonderful.
There were moments when that labor and delivery doctor, or the OBGYN or whatever she was called, came in. I was like, no, there were things that I was like, that makes no sense. But the acting on the mom, the dads, Dr. Collins, Robbie, all of it was just so amazing. I didn't care, because it was good television.
Yeah, it absolutely was good television, for sure.
So Jane Holsclaw, I would love for you to discuss the scene where Robbie goes into the bathroom and pulls out what I think are the pills that were prescribed by Langdon to the alcoholic patient. Robbie doesn't end up flushing them. Why? Again, we don't know. I guess conscience, he's warring with his conscience. He went in to do it to hope, I'm guessing, to try to save Langdon, and then decided the smart thing to do would be to keep them. So I'm not really sure, but I do hope we get more resolve on that.
Susan Cook Ragsdale also added on the Pit with Noah Wiley on Max. That's a Facebook page. It's a good one. Go check it out. Love your podcast. I'm in Tennessee too, about 45 minutes south of you. I called it at the festival with the Shooter Boy. Why else bring up there was a festival and the mom was taking so long to decide on what to do? Lots of foreshadowing on the previous episodes pointing right to it. Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we could see that coming.
So Kathleen Weber also wrote on the post, bring in Dr. Peter Benton or any of the other doctors from County General for consultants or to help with the mass tragedy, with a thinking emoji. And this tickled me because I love a fellow ER fan. And based on what's going on outside in the courtroom, I don't really think they're going to be able to bring in actual ER characters, but I don't see any reason why they couldn't bring us
some of the actors,
Eric LaSalle, or some of the actors from ER for a little reunion. I think that would be amazing.
What if George Clooney clocks in and he's the attendant on night shift?
I'm cool with that.
Did I just stun you? Wasn't he the head?
You did, because Clooney left ER so early on. I was thinking of Benton or Abby or Luca or one of those guys. So, yeah.
I knew he was one of the main characters for a while, so.
Yeah. Oh, yes. he was.
Probably blow some people's minds if he just showed up casually at the end of episode 15. Like, what I miss.
They're all still very close. I tell you who I want to see is Anthony Edwards.
I love that guy.
Aside from Dr. Carter, Dr. Green was my favorite. And of course, he passed away. Spoiler alert. He passed away on ER, which is one of the most tragic death scenes ever.
I actually watched that one. I like him as an actor.
I do too. Would be very cool to see him come back. But anyway, thank you, Kathleen. That was a fun conversation to have.
Maureen via Instagram writes, I had to pause this one, catch my breath, and go back in. An emotional tsunami with more to come next week. Yes, girl. We've covered that. That was pretty much everyone's feeling after watching this episode. We all wanted to clock out and go jump in that bath that Robbie was telling Collins to go home and take.
I like the term emotional tsunami. I'm going to use that. Thank you, Maureen.
Honestly, that kind of describes the two of us on most days.
Yes, we're just, y'all don't even know. So a quick shout out to Brooke D, who wrote on one of our posts that she's new to following us, and she asked about other shows that we cover. And this reminded me, Mandy and I were talking last week about what to cover next until we get the season 2 of the Pitt back. And we value y'all as listeners, so we wanted to reach out to ask and see if you have any suggestions. So keep an eye out for that post, or just feel free to email us. We'll give you our contact information later on with any thoughts on any shows that are coming up this spring and summer that you think might be fun for us to cover while we wait for our beloved The Pitt to return. And a thank you to all who wrote in with feedback and for all the love. I say it every week, but it means the world to us to hear from y'all. So thank you so much. And as always, a big thank you to the Pitt fan page, The Pitt with Noah Wiley on Max, and the Reddit page, The Pitt. You guys provide us with so much amazing content, and your willingness to engage with us, to allow us to post on our episodes, and just everything that you do to get us out there. It means the world. Thank you all so much. And please go check them out. We will make sure to post the links to their pages in our show notes. All right, so let's get to the fun part. Last week's poll results. The question was, did Santos do the right thing telling Dr. Robbie about Langdon's drug use? Mandy, why don't you give us the results?
I'm pleased to see that 94% of respondents said absolutely it was the right thing to do, with only 6% saying nope, she shouldn't have said a word. So that makes me happy because, again, on TikTok, there were a lot of people that were questioning why she spoke up, which just baffles me because what was she supposed to do?
I knew you'd be happy about that.
Well, I definitely have a bias, but do we know how many people voted?
Yeah, we had 40 voters. Our first poll, we had 13. Now we're up to 40. So very, very excited at the growing number of responses. And I can't wait to see what we get on next week's poll, which will be, how do you feel about the birth scene? Do you think it was too much, or do you think it was a good thing they showed the real deal? We'll post the poll once we get the podcast episode published, and we cannot wait to hear what y'all think about it.
Yep.
So if you would like to get in touch with us, leave us some feedback, or just say hi, you can send an email or send us a voice message as an attachment to what'sontonight2@gmail.com. And that's what's on tonight with the number 2@gmail.com. You can visit our Facebook page, where there will be a post for the next episode, and you can leave feedback in the comment section or send us a message through Facebook Messenger. We can be found on Instagram as well at What's On Tonight Podcast 2. And I know I mentioned a post on Facebook that we have hit 100 followers, and I don't know why or how or what's happening, but you guys, our Instagram is starting to grow as well. So keep it coming. Thank you so much. And we would greatly appreciate it if you'd leave a review, comment, like, and or share on your podcast listening app of choice.
Yeah, we're up to 125 now on Facebook.
I love it. So beautiful.
It's awesome. It's amazing.
How about we hang out in the back of the ambulance with Robbie and Collins and talk about podcast recommendations, good TV, movies, or anything else we want to share? What do you got, Mandy?
So for the first time, I'm going to talk about something that I've been spending a lot of my time doing in the last few weeks. I haven't been watching a lot of TV or any other podcasts because I am actually working on my own podcast. It's kind of a solo deal.
Finally! I've been waiting for you to share this with our listeners.
Well, and there's a reason I'm bringing it up today. So it's going to be called Dinner for Her. It's going to be a podcast about historical women with flavor. It's something that I feel very, very strongly about. I can't wait to share more of it with you guys, but I'm bringing it up today because I want to really give my best friend Becky here some kudos. I have learned this week through the editing process. Guys, this is, again, we've said this over and over. This is a labor of love for us. We don't make any money. It's a lot of work. We both have full-time jobs and a lot of other things going on in our lives, particular stresses, things that we don't want to bring to the podcast because it's not what it's about. We know that you guys all have your own things going on in this world, and we hope that we can be a moment of just community. This is a lot of fun for you guys as it is for us, but I don't do any of the editing. I have never gotten into all of the nuts and bolts of that with this podcast here. Having to do this on my own, Becky has been so awesome to sit and share everything that she has learned and walk me through this process. It is hard. It is time consuming. It is incredibly difficult if you don't, we don't have a big studio. We don't have engineers here doing this for us. We are doing this all on our own with the precious free time that we have. Becky's going to do a great job. You're never going to hear any of this, but right now here in Tennessee where we're at, there are a lot of storms going on, and I have a sensitivity to barometric pressure. My head is throbbing, and I had a bit of a meltdown earlier in the episode that you're never going to have to experience because Becky's going to cut all of that out because she is so good at what she does. And so I just want to take this moment to say, I love you. I'm sorry for my meltdown earlier. My head was killing me. And also I am so in awe what an intelligent, dedicated, hardworking woman you are. And I don't think you get your flowers enough.
Oh, Mandy, thank you so much. Well, you mean the world to me too. And this podcast wouldn't be what it is without your presence. So thank you very much. And I am beyond excited and proud of what you're going into and that you are going into it. And I can't wait to hear it. It's going to be amazing. So
thank you.
I'm proud of both of us. And thank you.
You're welcome. Love you.
Love you. You complete me. Well, as far as podcast recommendations, Panels to Pixels podcast is covering Daredevil Reborn. Mark, Steve, and I are having a great time discussing this reboot. So if you are a Daredevil fan, check us out. This is one of the podcasts that fall under the Pirate Core Entertainment podcast that we talk about at the end of the episode. So check us out. You can find links to each of those episodes on our What's On Tonight podcast page, as well as Panels to Pixels podcast page and Adrenaline Cinema podcast. Podcastica is continuing their incredible coverage of The White Lotus, which is another Max show. So if you're watching that, please check them out. You can find that podcast and a lot of other great podcasts from Podcastica on podcastica.com. I only have one TV show recommendation this week. I forgot it was coming, and I was so thrilled to see it pop up on my recommendations, and that's The Righteous Gemstones. They're back, baby. Also a show on Max. We don't make any money from Max. I'm just doing this because they got some good stuff going on out there. So check them out. It's a very great, hilarious comedy with a great cast. You'll love it. So a big thank you to Mark and Pirate Core Entertainment for giving us this platform. Mandy was talking earlier about me helping her learn things, and it's been Mark that has guided me to where we are today. So thank you so much to him and Pirate Core Entertainment. Please visit their website. It can be found on our Facebook page, and you can find our podcast as well as other podcasts like we mentioned above, as well as the Slay Lounge podcast with Billy and Will. And you can find other projects that Mark is working on.
That wraps up our coverage of episode 11 of The Pit. We will be back next week where we will break down episode 12 titled 6 p.m. Ooh, it's going to be a rough one, guys. Buckle in.
Ooh. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. And we know there are some dark things happening in this country. So remember, hope is being able to see that there is light despite of all the darkness. So please stay hopeful, everyone. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
We'll catch you next week when we grab the remote and see what's on tonight. Bye.
Bye.
So much vagina.